Alright, welcome back, cats, and we are the cats. I'm Brittany.
Amber here.
And today we're going to be doing an episode on the new Avengers Endgame that is coming out on the 26th.
26, be there.
Woo, holla. And so I'm going to read a recap of Avengers Endgame. So
Infinity Wars,
sorry.
Get you ready for Endgames,
for
because that's
Endgame.
the thing. We were like, which one is which? We're confused. So we're going to get everyone back on track with a synopsis of Infinity Wars.
Okay, alright, so I'll go ahead and read that synopsis of Infinity Wars. So the Hulk is there because he joined Thor in Thor Ragnarok to defeat Hela, Thor's estranged sister, who I think was the one that stabbed him in the eye, right? And then he had to kill her because he was stabbed in the eye. That's the one. Why he has an eye patch in Infinity Wars. So he was on his spaceship back to Earth. Everyone is thinking, wow, what would happen if Thanos had to go up against Hulk? Those questions are answered quickly after a futile counterattack from the Hulk, who ends up getting his big screen ass kicked by Thanos. All right.
Ooh, what did you think of that fight?
I feel like I kind of tuned out when I was watching that fight.
There's a lot going on.
What did you think of that fight?
Well, everyone was thinking, oh, well, this guy, what would he do against Hulk? And then they answered that very quickly. They're like, Hulk, yeah, not going against this universal
just doesn't stand a
villain.
chance.
Yeah, this guy's like universe villain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Hulk is
like
gamma radiation.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering, we're just taking notes back and forth. We're getting ready for the game. So we're just going to be taking notes.
Yeah, we're going to be playing a game that has to do with the Avengers, and we'll explain it as we go along. Basically, who we would want on our team if we were defeating Thanos.
So Loki offers the Tesseract to Thanos in exchange for Thor, his own freaking brother's life. But that backfires on Loki because Thanos anticipates Loki's attempt to betray him. Moments before Loki does his usual magical and tricky thing, like you see in all the movies, Thor is like, oh, you did it again, brother. And they do that a lot, you know, where Thor is like, oh, I had no idea, I didn't see that coming. But I guess that's just part of the camaraderie between the brothers. Corvus Glaive straight up kills Loki in front of a very much screaming and crying Thor. Heimdall, who has really good powers, then uses the power of the Bifrost to send Hulk to Earth. Thanos and his children then depart just as the ship self-destructs, leaving a very mourning Thor behind and just stranded floating in space. So yeah, Thor he's bawling that he's stranded in space, but space doesn't affect him because he's a god and he doesn't need a helmet or anything, and he's just kind of covered in frost, like, oh, brother.
First of all, I thought that was really stupid, the way Loki tried to trick him by telling him he would be an undying, like, loyal servant, and then he just had this little tiny knife up his sleeve. Like, what the fuck?
Loki is, like, known around town for being, like, this little, like, close-up magic guy.
Yeah.
And he's gonna... It was silly, but I guess that's why he straight up killed him. He's like, you are silly. And Thor's like, no.
Hulk crash lands at the Sanctum Sanctorum, reverts back to his human form, Bruce Banner, who informs Dr. Stephen Strange and Wong about Thanos' impending arrival. Dr. Strange and Bruce Banner retrieve Tony Stark and brief him about the Infinity Stones and Thanos, realizing they must find fellow Avenger Vision to protect the Mind Stone embedded in his head. Stark realizes he must make contact with Steve Rogers, Captain America, to find Vision, who has gone off the grid with Wanda Maximoff. Just then, Ebony Maw and Cole Obsidian arrive in New York to seize the Time Stone. Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, Wong, and Peter Parker, Spider-Man, confront him, Hulk having been traumatized by his defeat at the hands of Thanos, obviously. Back to his normal form as Bruce Banner finds himself unable to transform into the Hulk and help in the battle. Ebony Maw incapacitates and captures Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, and Peter Parker, pursue his spaceship, leaving Earth, leaving Earth
Ooh,
as as they
Earth,
heave Leaving Earth as Earth's stowaways, while Wong stays behind to protect the Sanctorum, and Bruce Banner contacts the rest of the Avengers. Any thoughts on that?
So, yeah, things are starting to build at this point. And yeah, I was always like, oh, how, we're starting to see people meet soon that haven't met, so tension's building.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, I thought it was so cool that Spider-Man has gotten involved in the Avengers. I think that's, like, really awesome.
And I like that Tony Stark's, like, his illegitimate father.
Yeah.
I like Aunt May, too.
I didn't
What's going on there?
Yeah, I agree. I didn't understand that.
It's Pepper Potts. He's serious about Pepper, right? And he's still doing, like, the Playboy thing. I thought he was done with that, like, 2 movies ago. So what's with Marissa Tomei, hot Aunt May, and then he's like, do you get what I mean? Like...
I don't understand the relationship between him and Spider-Man.
Well, he's
Why
like
is he
his
like
protege.
His father?
He's like his protege, like because Spider-Man's been hitting up the news and he thinks he can help them, but he's kind of like his protege. It's cute, but it's a little like stuffed in there.
Right. Yeah. And then Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is new to me. I have never seen the Doctor Strange movies or read the comics, so he was like a whole new character for me.
That's a good one because he has a lot of things he can do. And he's definitely, I think, going to be...
He seemed like an important asset for sure, and it makes me want to go back and kind of look up his background.
That's a cool movie. Tilda Swinton, I thought, was good in that movie. People were hating on Tilda Swinton, but I thought she was good in that movie.
Nice. And Vision. Which one was Vision? Was he the one with the Mind Stone in his head?
He's pink and with the stripes.
Okay, yeah, that's the guy with the Mind Stone in his head. Where they were in Scotland in the beginning
He's dating
of the
with the
film.
Olsen triplets. There's a lot going on with Vision.
Okay.
Well, like, Vision was like their computer, and he brought it to life.
What was the name of the computer?
Jarvis.
Jarvis.
He brought Jarvis, pretty much gave him a human body so he could help him out better.
Yeah.
But you can't just upload,
and then
technology wasn't enough.
He fell in love.
They fell in love.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
It was like
there.
so sad when she had to kill him. Anyways, let's
Spoilers!
move on. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! He doesn't die. What am I saying?
Dies.
Alright, moving on.
In Scotland, where Wanda Maximoff and Vision have been hiding, they are ambushed by Proxima Midnight and Corvus Grave. But Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, and Stan Wilson fight them off. They decide to seek shelter in the Avengers facility in upstate New York, where they meet James Rhodes, who is once again mobile with bionic leg braces. James Rhodes, I gotta learn more about James Rhodes. Was that Bucky? I'm not sure. Did Bucky? Okay, someone let me know.
That.
Yeah,
If
anyone knows more about James Rhodes, I think I know who James Rhodes is. But Vision proposes that Wanda Maximoff destroy the stone in his forehead to keep Thanos from retrieving it. Okay, so Wanda Maximoff immediately refuses. However, Steve Rogers suggests that they travel to one place that has the technology to safely remove the stone from Vision without killing him. This place is Wakanda. I love how they tied that into Wakanda.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was exciting because it wasn't like they just like, oh, Wakanda, that was all a big movie, so this is going to be a party. Like, it really made sense because they really like had it be kind of pivotal to the plot. So I like that, and I liked when they then moved the movie over to Wakanda.
Alright, Thor is rescued by the Guardians of the Galaxy, who are my favorite. I freaking love the Guardians of the Galaxy, who had picked up that as... Oh, speaking of which, she's wearing a rocket necklace.
Rocket.
Should I get it out?
Anything Guardians.
Hell yeah. So yeah, he's rescued by Guardians of the Galaxy, who had picked up the Asgardian ship's distress call. Thor guesses that Thanos would next be after the Reality Stone, which is in the possession of the Collector in Nowhere. They must also retrieve a new weapon capable of killing Thanos from the dwarven planet of Nidavellir? How do you pronounce that? Nidavellir.
Help us out.
I don't remember
Help us
how
out,
they...
audience.
Where the only forge that can create such a weapon exists, and that is the Collector in Nowhere. the land of nowhere, I guess. Thor orders Rocket with him to Nidavellir, while Peter Quill, who is Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, and Mantis travel to Nowhere. So they're all going to Nowhere to figure out how to create a weapon, because they need to retrieve the new weapon capable of killing Thanos. I love how you drew a robot.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking at my notes.
Sorry, am I not allowed?
She knows how we're gonna beat Thanos. On the way to Nowhere, Gamora talks to Peter Quill, Star-Lord, making him promise to kill her if the situation presents itself. That was a very important moment. Imagine, like, asking someone who's into you, like, will you kill me? They're gonna be like, no, babe. Peter Quill, Star-Lord, reluctantly promises he will. But he doesn't mean it. Or does he? I don't know. Did he mean it? Well, I'm still thinking about that. Did he mean it? In Nowhere, Thanos ambushes the Guardians, having already retrieved the Reality Stone, and created an illusion of an intact Nowhere to trap them. He captures Gamora after a crucial moment when Gamora begs Star-Lord to kill her. Using the Space Stone to escape, Thanos reveals that he knows that Gamora already knows the location of the Soul Stone. After prying information from a tortured Nebula, that's Gamora's adopted sister, Android Lady.
Android Lady. So it can only be retrieved by sacrificing the life of someone he truly loves. Despite his reluctance, Thanos tearfully throws Gamora, his adopted daughter, whose planet he destroyed, off a tall cliff to her death and is granted the Soul Stone. What an asshole.
So Tony Stark, better known as Iron Man, and Peter Parker, better known as Spider-Man, rescue Doctor Strange from Ebony Maw's torture chamber. Ooh. Not like 50 Shades of Grey torture chamber, but
this isn't a fun, sexy
showing
torture
Doctor
chamber.
Strange like all these realities. I'm like, oh god. And I don't know how long he was there. They should. I don't know how long it took them to get back to him. And launch Ebony Maw out of the ship, killing him. That's what you get from torturing him. Doctor Strange believes they should retreat to protect the Time Stone, but Tony Stark disagrees with him. Tony Stark instead believes they should take the fight to Thanos instead of retreating like they've done in the past. The three leave to confront Thanos on Titan, where they meet Peter Quill, who better known as Star-Lord, Drax and Mantis, and formulate a plan to remove Thanos' gauntlet. While discussing their tactics, Doctor Strange uses the Time Stone to view alternate futures. So that ties in back to the Doctor Strange and why he has a cool power. It's like he's bending time. I mean, of course, you can do a lot with that if you can jump through time and know about that. So with the Time Stone, he views the alternate futures, telling them he'd seen 14,605 alternate futures, with only one where the Avengers win. So,
Chances are slim.
One is that the movie we're gonna see that one. I don't know. Like that's what I thought, but you know, we'll see.
Oh, next part, Thanos teleports to Titan, where, after a brief conversation with Doctor Strange meant to distract him, I read that as Doctor Strange meet lol. That was Amber's side notes.
Oh, sorry.
The group engaged Thanos in hand-to-hand combat and managed to subdue him. Mantis, who has badass powers, is able to calm Thanos, while Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Tony Stark, Iron Man, attempt to pry the gauntlet from his arm. Oh my. I do love Mantis. She does have very badass powers. What are her powers exactly? How could you, like, put them into a
From
few...
whatever planet she was from, they, I guess, were extinct, and Star-Lord's father, who's a god, had trouble sleeping with the... So he picked one of these... He picked Mantis up, I guess, after her planet was destroyed, maybe by Thanos, I don't know, or by himself. Someone destroyed it. And he picked her little larva up, and she helps him to sleep. So she can put, like, change people's emotions.
And she's an empath in a way.
Yeah,
exactly. She can feel
empath.
emotions and
yeah. And she was a big role, I think, in them defeating Star-Lord's dad as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Peter Quill, better known as Star-Lord, and Nebula, Gamora's adopted sister and Thanos' less favorite adopted daughter, arrive on Titan during the battle and deduce that Gamora is dead. A very enraged Peter Quill, who is Gamora's love interest, retaliates, hitting Thanos and breaking the group's hold on him. Thanos takes the gauntlet back and defeats the group, threatening to kill Tony Stark unless Doctor Strange gives him the Time Stone. Doctor Strange does so and tells Tony Stark they've entered the Endgame. Thanos adds the stone to his gauntlet and departs Titan. Is Peter Quill responsible for the death of half the universe? Like, sort of, but of course, like, that's the manipulation of Thanos.
Yeah.
One of the worst villains of all time is, you know, he's attacking from all angles, you know, and he's doing probably things that they don't expect, you know, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Thor, Rocket, and Groot arrive at an abandoned and desolate Nidavellir. Thor is puzzled that the giant forge is inactive. The giant dwarf, Eitri, tells them that Thanos forced the dwarves to create his gauntlet. He would. In return, Thanos killed all the dwarves except for Eitri. How very sweet of Thanos. After laboring to reactivate the forge and reignite the neutron star that powers it, one of the best parts, according to Amber. It's one of your favorite parts?
Oh, that's a great part where they're forging from a star, you know, like how much more,
cool.
you know, like, and it has the guy from Game of Thrones, and he's a dwarf, but he's a giant, and it's all interesting, and he's like opening up the star. It's like, whoa.
It's really cool, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a good part of the movie. Meanwhile, the Avengers arrive in Wakanda and task Shuri with safely extracting the Mind Stone from Vision. Thanos' Outrider army arrives and begins attacking Wakanda and the Avengers alongside the united Wakandan armies led by King T'Challa, better known as Black Panther, mount a defense against Thanos' forces. Corvus Grave infiltrates Shuri's lab and attacks Vision while she's doing the surgery to extract the stone. The Outriders begin overwhelming and defending armies before Thor's rocket group arrive to join the battle. So they have a kind of a defense, and the armies are becoming very overwhelming, but they do get back up from pretty much the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I do like that they moved the battle to Wakanda. I think it is a good setting for that scene, and it really ties everything together. So that was a scene I really liked. Was the battle being held on Wakanda.
I enjoyed that scene too. The tide seems to be turning for the Avengers. Cole Obsidian and Corvus Glaive are killed, but Thanos arrives for the Mind Stone. A tearful Wanda Maximoff destroys the still implanted Mind Stone in Vision's freaking head to prevent Thanos from retrieving it. But Thanos uses the Time Stone to reverse the event and pry out the Mind Stone from Vision's head, killing him. Thor attacks and drives his new Stormbreaker weapon into Thanos' chest, but Thanos survives long enough to snap his fingers with the gauntlet. Thanos ends up on a faraway world, or his own imagination, we're not quite sure, where he finds Gamora as a child. When he confirms that he achieved his goal, she asks him what it cost, and he answers everything. Back on Earth, Thor looks on in horror as Thanos and his battered gauntlet just teleport away. I really like that scene personally, where he's kind of like in his own subconscious mind, and he sees it's completely bleak and empty, and the only person and living being he sees is a young Gamora, which has so much meaning, you know?
That was heavy.
Because she was his everything, which is just, it was very heavy. Yeah, it was very sad.
For like a guy who destroys like planets, yeah, it's crazy stuff. But it's just like, you know, trying to humanize him, give him emotion, and how he justifies it, you know, that he's a loving person. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, you know, to see a villain from that side, you know, that they're emotional, or even that they want to help people, you know, not hurt people, but help people. That's kind of an interesting.
It is interesting. It gives him
villain. Yeah, so I do like him as a villain. Some people are like, oh, Thanos, but I like him as a villain for sure.
Yeah.
I would even like to know more about him, and I'm actually hoping to learn more about him because I know he has this, he's getting the stones and all that, but
what's his backstory? Where did he
yeah,
come
what's
from?
his backstory?
Yeah.
I think maybe we almost need that. So
I think so too. I hope that's an end game, honestly.
I would really like to know more about Thanos. Okay, so Thanos' goal of eradicating half of all life in the universe comes to fruition as people begin disintegrating. This list includes Bucky Barnes, Groot, Peter Parker, better known as Spider-Man, Peter Quill, also known as Star-Lord, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Sam Wilson, Drax, Mantis, Wanda Maximoff. They all dissolve into ash and start not feeling so good.
Start not feeling so good.
Start feeling...
I don't feel so
good. He didn't feel so good. Ooh, yes. That was just...
That was a pretty sad scene.
That was so sad. I really did actually cry during that movie. That's how you know it's a good movie. You laugh, because you feel like you know these characters. If you've been watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you've invested time, your own money in these people. And yeah, it starts to feel like personal, and it was interesting how they did that with Spider-Man because they've had so many different Spider-Mans, but yet you feel like you almost know all of them. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Like all three of them were all really good.
Yeah, it is interesting. I love all the Spider-Mans. Yeah, in different ways. I love them all differently.
But remaining in Wakanda, only Steve Rogers, also known as Captain America, Thor, Bruce Banner, also known as Hulk, Natila Romanoff, also known as Scarlett Johansson, aka Black Widow, James Rhodes, Rocket, Okoye, and Makabu remain of the heroes. On Titan, only Nebula and Tony Stark are left alive. Okay. Thanos awakens fully healed on another lush green planet and serenely watches the sunset, smiling slightly satisfied at having achieved his ultimate goal. Sicko.
Wow. That is really twisted.
It is totally twisted.
Completely justifies what he's done.
He is at peace.
For the better good, and yeah, it's insane. It does remind me of historical figures in life. Like, historical dictators that truly believed what their mission was and what their cause was for the greater good.
And that's the thing I think about a lot of the comics is, they do have a lot of historical as far as, parallels that they were taking from and kind of exaggerating, So, but I think they definitely come from very realistic things. And that's why people relate so much, because it is kind of like reality on this greater scale.
Yeah.